Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission meeting for September 11th. Before we begin, I would like to welcome Commissioner Richard Krantz. Commissioner Krantz was appointed in June by City Council to fill the seat of former Commissioner Pam Riddlemeyer. Before we go any further, we do need to take a couple of votes related to Commissioner Krantz's participation this evening. The first vote is by the Commission will be a vote to add to our agenda the ability to vote, which would be our second vote, to a vote to allow Commissioner Krantz to participate remotely. So once again, there was a request by the Commissioner to participate remotely. The reason for the request is just cause, as outlined under California Law AB 2249. The Commission was made aware of this request well after the 72-hour agenda deadline. As a result, the Commission needs to take action, and since it was discovered after the agenda deadline, by voting one to add, once again, a vote on the Commissioner's remote participation. So with that, do I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second that motion.
Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Commissioner Michael?
Yes.
Commissioner Narita?
Yes.
Chair Rowinski?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now that we have voted to add this item, the vote of the Commissioner to the agenda, let's move to the actual vote itself. Once again, based on the California Law AB 2492, the Commission must vote to approve remote participation and to make the four findings. Madam Clerk, do we have requests to participate under AB 2449?
Yes, Rich Kranz.
Commissioner Krantz, can you please address the Commission?
Yes, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Chair Rowinski, for the accommodation. I have surgery scheduled on Friday. At the risk of too much information, I'm unable to walk, and it's in the last week or so, it's become painful and impossible. So asking for an accommodation just this one time, I should be in better stead for the October meeting. I'm here alone at the house. Except for my two dogs, there's nobody else here, so it should be a sterile environment. And asking if this would be okay with you to allow me to participate.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, so Commissioners, we will take a vote to allow remote participation. Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Michael?
Yes.
Vice Chair Narita?
Yes.
Chair Rowinski?
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Okay, great. Okay, well, welcome aboard from, in terms of remote participation there, Commissioner Krantz, and welcome to the Commission.
Good to be here. I look forward to serving the community, working closely with Public Works and this commission. San Mateo has proven to be a great place to live, and I'm grateful for all those who have come before me making it so.
Great, okay, thank you. Okay, everyone, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Madam Clerk, can we do roll call for this evening's meeting?
Commissioner Michael,
Here.
Vice Chair Narita,
Here.
Chair Rowinski,
Here.
and Commissioner Robbins.
Here.
Commissioner Krantz.
And
Here.
Kranz, apologies, passes 5-0.
Okay.
It's okay.
Thank you. Okay, we are excited to be here in person with options for those who choose, as well as options for those who choose to participate virtually. For those attending in person, please complete a yellow request to speak slip and hand it to our clerk, and you will be called on appropriately. If participating remotely, use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, and you'll be called on at the appropriate time. When called upon, please let us know who you are and provide your comments to the commission. Please note the speaker's timer, if you are remote using Zoom, is typically in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. The timer will allow each speaker a speaking time of 3 minutes. If participating by phone, please call area code 408-638-0968, 408-638-0968, and enter conference ID number 87 67 58 65 18, the number 5, once again, 87 67 58 65 18, and the number 5. And enter the passcode 76 59 81, once again, 76 59 81. Press star 9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press star 6 to unmute and introduce yourself, followed by your comments to the commission. The next item on our agenda is the election of the chair and vice chair, who will serve until June of 2025. Is it September? It is, okay, I'm sorry, okay, to September of 2025. Let's proceed with the election of the chair first. Commissioners, do I have any nominations?
I'll nominate Kimmy, which I should probably be more formal than that. I will nominate Commissioner Narita as our chair.
I'll second that nomination of Commissioner Narita. Okay, Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Michael,
Yes.
Vice Chair Narita,
Yes.
Commissioner Rowinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Kranz.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, Chair.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on to vice chair. Commissioners, do I have any nominations for vice chair? Otherwise, I'd be glad to make one.
I nominate Commissioner Michaels.
Okay, I would second that nomination. Madam Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Michael,
Yes, thank you.
Chair Narita,
Yes.
Commissioner Rowinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes, of course.
Commissioner Kranz.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. All right, thank you. We have our leadership for the next year in place, and I will pass the gavel
Thank you.
to Commissioner Narita.
All right, do we have to, should we physically switch?
I can move these if you like, or? I would just, you want to, we can just keep them, unless we want to do musical chairs.
Okay, great. Okay, great. All right, thank you, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to be chair for this following year. I want to express my deep appreciation to former Chair Robbins and Rowinski. They covered for my potential chairships when I was pregnant and going on parental leave, and I just want to honor and thank you for your flexibility and support for me during that time, and I'm really excited for the year to come. Okay. So next on the agenda is the approval of the commission regular meeting minutes. This is one of the old agenda items. And can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar, which is encompassed with one item, just the approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion to approve. But does anyone have any changes they would like to make?
Thank you. Does anyone have any changes they would like to make? Thank you. I'm learning on the job.
Seeing no changes?
All right, fabulous. Seeing no changes, let's go for a vote.
Vice Chair Michael,
Yes.
Chair Narita,
Yes.
Commissioner Rowinski,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Kranz.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Great. The next agenda item is public comment. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on the agenda may address the commission at this time. State law prevents the commission from taking action on any matter not on the agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. This public comment section is generally limited to a total of 15 minutes, and it's within our discretion to extend if necessary. And one more note, we welcome speakers providing public comment, but please be advised this is a limited public forum. As such, speakers must stay on topic if speaking to a particular agenda item, and if speaking during general public comment, they must address matters within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. If speakers fail to follow these rules, they will be warned, and if they continue to disregard our rules, their opportunity to speak will be ended. With that, do we have any slips or Zoom participation for public comment?
Madam Chair, we have one on Zoom.
Fabulous. We can set the timer for 3 minutes.
Go ahead, Allison.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Allison McQueen, and I serve on the City of San Mateo Safe Routes to School Committee. I have 3 areas of opportunity to promote pedestrian and cyclist safety in San Mateo that are not addressed in today's bike and ped update that was published before this meeting. Number 1, green paint. I asked San Mateo DPW to use green paint on the bicycle lanes that already exist in our city. Notable opportunities are Palm Avenue and Norfolk Street. Green paint helps communicate where bikes and cars should be on our streets and helps cyclists find safer routes to where they want to go. Number 2, road diets. This means making the road more narrow, which has been shown to reduce vehicle speed and increases safety for pedestrians and cyclists. Opportunities for road diets in San Mateo include Alameda de las Pulgas and Kingston Street, which are both directly adjacent to schools. Slower cars mean safer streets for our children. Number 3, coordination with developers. For example, there is a proposed development on Kingston Street currently before the Planning Commission. The site is directly adjacent to the Monte Diablo Bike Ped Bridge, the Monte Diablo Bicycle Boulevard, and a public school. This area has seen vehicle sideshows and regularly speeding vehicles with no crosswalks for over a third of a mile. It's an unsafe corridor in San Mateo. On Kingston Street, there are opportunities for DPW to partner with the developer on Kingston Street improvements. A few ideas. The existing crosswalks are worn down and barely visible at Kingston and Monte Diablo. There is no red curbing to allow for daylighting at these barely visible crosswalks. Kingston Street is 33 feet wide and is ripe for a road diet, which would reduce vehicle speeds, allow for a bike lane that can connect the Bike Boulevard, Bike Ped Bridge, and enable safe routes to San Mateo High and North Shoreview Montessori School. Thank you for listening about green paint, road diets, and street safety opportunities at redevelopment sites. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other general public comments?
There is not.
Okay, great. At this point, I will close general public comment, and we'll go to our next order of business, which is the bicycle and pedestrian projects update. Basically, what happens in terms of the process here is that we'll receive a presentation by staff. Then we will, hold on, there's a note here. Hold on one second. Then we will open public comment right after the staff presentation. After that, I'll open up questions for the commission. Staff will be able to respond to those questions, and then we'll have closing comments. That will be the process tonight. Okay, with that said, very warm welcome to the staff present today, Jay and Nicolette, who are here to present on our bike ped update.
It's not showing over there. Okay, there we go. All right, good evening, commissioners. My name is Jay Yu, the engineer manager for Public Works, and we have Nicolette Chan here, associate transportation planner. And tonight we will be presenting, and when I say we, I really mean mostly Nicolette here, presenting on the bicycle and pedestrian program update. This is an informational item, but an exciting one because we have a lot of projects we want to go through, from infrastructure to planning as well as grants. So without further ado, Nicolette, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Jay. So here we have an overview of our presentation. As Jay said, we'll start with infrastructure projects, move on to planning projects, and then we have a few updates as far as the status of some grant applications. Before we dive in, I wanted to point out this graphic that we have on most of our slides tonight. It gives you an overview of where the project is at a high level. And so you see here the three typical stages of a capital improvement project: planning, design, and construction. And we've noted where the project is currently at with a yellow star. And then if there is an active project web page for that project, then the short link to the project web page is going to be below the graphic. This graphic also shows if there has been funding secured for a project. So using this graphic here as an example, the design phase is fully funded because it does have a green circle with a money symbol. And then the funding here is identified by the two logos next to it. So the City of San Mateo logo is here because there is some local funding in there. And then the other logo means that there is also some grant funding that's used for the design phase. And so for the construction phase for this example project, there's a green circle with a red line, which means funding has not been secured to fund the construction phase. So now diving into infrastructure projects. First, we have Delaware Street Safe Routes to School corridor, where we are designing and constructing a Class 4 separated bike lane on Delaware Street from 28th Avenue to 19th Avenue, and then a Class 3 bike boulevard from 28th Avenue to Pacific Boulevard. This is a grant-funded project. The grant funding is being used for both the design and construction phases, with some local funding in the construction phase. And if you're interested in seeing the design for this project, the concept design is posted on the project webpage. For this project, we have conducted outreach this past spring. We held 2 pop-up events at the 28th Avenue and Delaware intersection and at the Fieldworks Brewing. We also had survey, door-to-door canvassing, and an online video going through the whole corridor on the project webpage. The project is progressing quickly. We are now at the 95% design, and the design is expected to be complete this fall. 28th Avenue Gap Closure Project. We are designing a Class 4 separated bike lane on 28th Avenue between Edison and Delaware Streets, and then a Class 2 bike lane between Delaware and Kine Streets. And these are the proposed bike facilities that's in our 2020 Bicycle Master Plan. And this project further expands our bike network because it does connect with the Delaware Safe Routes to School project that I just spoke about on the previous slide. We are currently reviewing the 35% design plans and the preliminary cost estimates for the preferred alternative, which was the one-way separated bike lanes, so separated bike lanes on either side of the roadway with bus boarding islands underneath the overpass, and then a pedestrian priority signal at the Delaware Street intersection. We are adding on additional scope to the scope of work for this project so that we can do more outreach after the 35% design is complete, and that's expected to be in person as well as online engagement. And the design for this project is expected to be complete early next summer. 19th Avenue Fashion Island Class 4 Bikeway. For this project, we are working with the San Mateo County Transportation Authority and Samtrans to design a Class 4 bike facility with smart corridor elements on the 19th Avenue Fashion Island corridor. This project is important because it does connect, again, to the Delaware Safe Routes to School project, and to the future mobility hub that'll be in this area, and it complements the 101-92 interchange project. Just to note that the mobility hub is not part of the design phase of this project. That is being handled as a separate effort. So for this project, we held a community workshop and online survey in May and June this year, where we presented the two design alternatives to the community. The first option was a two-way Class 4 separated bike lane on the south side of the road for the full length of the project. And the second option also had a two-way Class 4 on the south side, but only from the western limit to Grant Street. And then east of Grant Street it turned into a one-way Class 4, so separated bike lane on either side of the roadway. And so the preferred design that we are moving forward with is the two-way to the one-way Class 4. And the construction phase for this project is not fully funded yet. We do have $500,000 in earmarked federal funds, but we are also going out for grant programs to get grant funding, which I'll talk about more later. Pavement Management Project Phase 5B. With our paving and roadway projects, we do try to integrate bike facility implementation into those because it's really nice to ride on a nice, smooth street that was just paved. So for this project, we are installing two bike facilities. The first on South Grant Street from Concar to 16th. We're installing a Class 3 bike boulevard with a speed cushion for traffic calming. And then Norfolk Street from Lodi to Dakota Avenues, we already have an existing Class 2 bike lane, but we'll be updating that bike lane to be up to standard. So there will be striping on either side of the bike lanes and then green paint backing on the pavement markings. The bike facility will start construction this fall. School zone speed limits. We are reducing speed limits in qualifying school zones, and what makes a street eligible is based on state law. And happy to say that we have completed this project as of June 2024. The last two phases of this project, we reduced speed limits on streets adjacent to private elementary, private middle, and high schools. And a map of where these last two phases reduce speed limits is on the project webpage. To notify the community about these new speed limits, we did outreach right before school started in August, where we distributed yard signs in English and Spanish and posted changeable message signs at key streets, similar to what we did for phase 1 of this project. The Hillsdale and Alameda traffic signal project, we are designing and constructing a new traffic signal.
We're just going to take a brief moment to get the technical difficulties on the Zoom. Thanks everyone for your patience.
Let me start over with this slide. So Hillsdale and Alameda Traffic Signal Project. We're designing and constructing a new traffic signal and protected intersection at this location. Some of the improvements that are included here, in addition to a traffic signal, we also have pedestrian signals, a protected corner where there's space for bicyclists to wait for the light to cross the street, and then a pedestrian refuge island, which does the same thing for pedestrians. We have conducted outreach for this project that included direct outreach with the households right at this intersection. And so as we move forward with the design, we will still be including those households to make sure they see the design and we address their concerns if they have any. We are at the 65% design right now, and the design will be complete this fall, and after which we will go out to bid for the construction contract. Downtown Parking Garage Pedestrian Safety Project. We are in construction for this project where we are installing safety improvements at the entrance and exits of the garages on your screen. Okay, restarting on this slide again. Downtown Parking Garage Pedestrian Safety Project. We're in the construction phase, and we're building safety improvements at the entrance and exits of Central, Main Street, and 2nd and El Camino parking garages, really trying to reduce the conflict where the driveway meets the sidewalk at the entrance and exits. And some of the improvements included here are vertical clearance fixtures, which state the maximum height a car can be to safely move through the garage. We have protected walkways with delineators, so it further separates pedestrians from moving traffic. And then we have warning devices, 2 of them actually. One is caution car coming, so it warns pedestrians of cars exiting, but we also have pedestrians crossing, so it warns the vehicles exiting of pedestrians crossing the driveway. So for the improvements at the 2nd and El Camino garage, those improvements are being implemented as part of a different improvement project that the city is leading, and that project is currently pending. For the improvements at the Central and Main Street garages, we are expecting to start construction this fall. Third Avenue and Norfolk Street intersection safety improvements. We also have funding for both design and construction of a Class 4 bikeway that'll be used to connect us to the existing bike facilities in this area. And that includes the 3rd Avenue Bike and Ped Bridge, the existing bike lanes on Norfolk Street, and then the Class 1 bike path that runs adjacent to the San Mateo Creek. It is important to note that this is a federally funded project through the Community Development Block Grant Program. And we have also completed outreach for this project. We've done an online survey and sent out mailers to the neighborhood schools, bike advocacy groups. Some of the issues that we heard were pedestrian visibility issues, conflicts with pedestrians and right-turning vehicles, and then congestion at the intersection. So we have incorporated that feedback into the design, which is now at the 65% phase. And that design will be complete this fall, and we will roll right into construction, which is expected to be complete next summer. And now I'll pass it over to Jay.
All right, thank you, Nicolette. I just want to make sure if this, here. All right, perfect. All right, planning projects. We have a few. I have to say, Sue Ellen Atkinson, which was our previous principal transportation planner, has decided to move on to greener pastures. So I will be taking a lead on a lot of this, and we're taking a step back to look at all the planning projects holistically. And the first one is the San Mateo Complete Streets Plan. Commissioners, you are no stranger to this, but it's a multimodal plan that combines pedestrians, bicyclists, sustainable streets elements, as well as green infrastructure, and it also supports the General Plan 2040 that's been recently adopted. We're currently finalizing the draft plan and drafting the design manual, getting that pretty much wrapped up, and we're aiming to get council adoption in this winter. Next, very similar to the Complete Streets Plan, we have the North Central Complete Streets Plan. And the difference is this focuses specifically at the North Central community. The plan is midway through plan development, and it's fine-tuning some of its priority projects. Specifically, we have 10 currently at draft, and we're reaching out to the community to go ahead and narrow that down to about 5. We're aiming for adoption in early 2025. And then the citywide transportation demand management ordinance update. This is one where we received a $150,000 MTC technical assistant grant. And this is really to comprehensively look at transportation demand management methods throughout the city. As you know, we currently only have TDM requirements for developers in the rail corridor, and this ordinance update hopes to expand that citywide. We're aiming to bring this to council adoption in a study session sometime in fall and potentially even winter. And as a celebratory item, the LRSP was adopted in May 2024. This was something that has been in the works for over a year and a half, and it really helps us look at collision data in terms of patterns and prioritizing how we do resource allocation in addressing some of the safety issues and being more proactive about it. We're currently also looking for grant funding to fund some of the projects that came out of this plan. And with that, Nikki?
Thanks, Jay. Looking forward to telling you about some of the grants that we've been working on. So for this one, Transportation Development Act Article 3 Bike and Ped Program. The last time we came with you with a quarterly update, the update was that we applied, and the project was to design a new Caltrain entrance on the northeast side of the San Mateo Caltrain Station entrance, which, as you can see from the graphic, there currently is no entrance on the east side. So that currently creates a barrier to transit for those coming from the North Central neighborhood. In addition, the project will look to improve pedestrian access on Cypress Avenue, which will connect directly to that new Caltrain station entrance we are proposing. And I'm happy to announce that we did get awarded funding for this project in the amount of $282,000. Council formally accepted the grant, and we will be starting this project early next year. San Mateo County Safe Routes to School Fellowship Grant. This grant is particularly unique because in order to apply, you do have to have a set team, and that team has to consist of both city staff and school staff. So last year, we teamed up with staff from Hillsdale High School to submit an application, and our goal was to improve pedestrian and bike safety on streets surrounding the high school. And we were fortunate to be selected to participate in the program. Our first step was to observe existing conditions and identify improvements with the community. So we hosted a walk audit in late March, and we had high school staff, students, parents who attended, and it was wonderful, got some great feedback. That feedback was put in a walk audit report, which we then wanted to do a quick build project, but we had to prioritize where we were going to do the project. So we attended the parent-teacher organization meeting, and we spoke to students during their lunch break and asked them where would improvements make the most impact in the short term. And the feedback ended up saying Lansdale and Fernwood Streets. So that is exactly where our quick build project took place. We installed curb extensions and high visibility crosswalks to respond to the issues that we heard, which included vehicles speeding and cars parking at red curbs and at crosswalks, so it made it hard to see pedestrians crossing. We installed the Quick Build project in early August, about a week before the high school started school, and we did post sidewalk decals to get feedback on the design. And so we really want to continue the momentum we have for this project as well, the great work we've done so far. And so we submitted a grant application to fund the design phase of this project. And that program is the San Mateo County Bike and Pedestrian Cycle 7 grant. And so now we formally named that project the Hillsdale High School 31st Avenue Pedestrian Safety Improvement Project. And for this grant, we requested approximately $391,000 for, again, the design phase. We applied for a second project for the same grant program, and that was the 19th Avenue Fashion Island Class 4 Bicycle Facility Project, which we presented earlier on in this presentation. And that will fund the construction phase of the Class 4 bikeway, and we are requesting approximately $2 million for that. And then there's a second grant application that we submitted for the 19th Avenue Fashion Island Bikeway, and that's for the MTC Regional Measures 3 grant program. This program finances highway and transit improvements to resolve the Bay Area's congestion problems, and funding for this program comes from a voter-approved measure where it increased tolls by $1 on 3 separate years for 7 state-owned bridges. So again, we're applying for the 19th Avenue Fashion Island Class 4 bikeway in the same amount of approximately $2 million to fund the construction phase. Thank you. That concludes staff presentation, and we welcome any questions you have.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. At this point, we'll move to public comment, and I'll open up public comment. How many public comments do we have approximately?
We have one.
Fabulous. Let's put 3 minutes on the timer.
Paul.
Welcome, Paul.
Hi, good to see you. I'm Paul Krupka, a proud resident of the city of San Mateo, and also pertinent to this effort, a 40-year plus transportation engineer with lots of experience, broad and deep in all kinds of improvements. And I'm simply here tonight to applaud staff, the commission. I should have introduced myself to the chair, excuse me, chair. The commission and, you know, the public, the community. I'm very happy the way that we're progressing and advancing safety in our community, and these bicycle and pedestrian studies and, improvements do a lot for individuals. And you know, I'm all for it, and I just wanted to say how impressed I am with the volume and the depth of work that's been done that's shown here, and wish you the best in carrying it forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any other public commenters?
There are none.
Okay, so at this point, I'll close public comment and open up questions from my fellow commission members. Is there anyone who would like to go first with questions? Great, thank you, Commissioner, Vice Chair Michael.
Thank you. As usual, you guys have a full plate of projects, and they all look very exciting, and thanks for sharing them. I have very minor questions, but whenever we do the bike infrastructure reports, I'm always trying to recall what the Class 4 and Class 3 are and so on. So just on the question about the first project you showed us, Delaware, where it's going to be a Class 4 project, and then can you remind me, what does a bike boulevard mean? Because I think it was a bike boulevard on either direction of the Class 4. And Class 4 is separated completely.
Correct. So the Class 4 is a separated bike lane, so there is a buffer in between the driving lane, the through lane, and the bike lane, and it's a physical vertical barrier that separates between the through lane and the bike lane. And then a bike boulevard is where we have the bicyclists share the road with drivers, and we have the shared pavement marking on the street. and typically we do include traffic calming measures to make sure that road speeds are around 25 miles per hour or less.
Is a bike boulevard the same thing as class 3 bike lane?
It is. It sometimes is also called a bike route, but a bike boulevard introduces the traffic calming measures in there. A bike route would be just the pavement marking on the floor.
Okay. And then I think it would be helpful in that section also to include the project costs and the grant size you're getting, because that gives us a better understanding of why these are such, how the city is so investing in bike lanes and bike infrastructure, and also the sizable grants you're receiving to accomplish them that we saw sort of at the later end. And then I just wanted to make note that Safe Routes to School project looks especially exciting and really cool how you involve the students. And I love seeing those examples of the pop-up or the quick build projects that I think are so creative in getting outcomes quickly. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. Anyone else would like to ask some questions of the staff? Okay, great. Commissioner Winsky.
Let's see. I have some questions here. The Hillsdale and Alameda traffic signal, and I did attend the January 2024 community meeting, actually, because I live in the neighborhood. And it was well attended too, with many different inputs. But I think some of the inputs that were pretty consistent is the neighborhood did not want trees removed in the medium. Did that, and that was, I think it was Bethany was there. Did that get through? That is, and I know this is very specific, but that was pretty clear, and I don't know whether that got through to staff or not.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there were a couple of main points, and the trees were definitely one. But one we also heard from the community was really removing the pedestrian and vehicle conflict, and a dedicated left turn pocket was something that they really wanted in the community. As you can imagine, right now it's an always stop, and the only way that we can facilitate that when we looked at it at the design level, because of the limited right-of-way, was we had to remove a certain part of the median, and we tried to minimize the amount of vegetation as well as trees as possible, but as a constraint, there's just not enough right-of-way in order to make that happen, in order to make the facilitation. So as a result, we tried to limit it as much as possible.
Right, so how many trees do you know will be removed? Or we don't know that yet?
I don't know that right now.
But trees will be removed?
Yeah, in order to facilitate the median right there.
And the medium is roughly what, about a couple, 100 feet, 200 feet?
I want to say it'd be under 200 feet, around there.
Okay, it gives me a sense of 200 heading south from that intersection.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's a question I did receive from somebody when this came in. Okay, that's my question. That's one of my questions there. A few other questions I have is, let's see, related to, let's talk about Delaware Safe Routes to School project. You held two community outreach. Did anyone express, or is there any concern that on-street parking will be removed? I know the city's been trying to figure out how to minimize that, but where are we on that right now?
Yeah, so we did multiple rounds of outreach, and we actually had A-frames and information that were broadcasted directly in front of where potential parking removal. Right now, at our current design, we're looking at about 6 parking spaces. That's something that did not come up in the public meetings or in the pop-up events directly adjacent to the project site, but that's something that we're constantly evaluating with our team to inform everyone, specifically the residents that are directly in front of the project where there will be parking removal.
Right, and those are mostly rentals too.
Exactly, so
Right.
we're making sure we close to 4 or 5 different attempts that we've made, but we're going to do it all the way up until the project completed to make sure that they're fully aware of some of the impacts. I want to note that while there is 6 parking spaces for removal currently, that does stretch from the block from Bermuda all the way to Saratoga, so it's a relatively large stretch there. But we're making attempts and we're continuing to make attempts.
Right, and have you heard anything from the folks at Fiesta Gardens? Because those places will then, those cars need to park somewhere, and they'll go most likely in Fiesta Gardens. Now, is this on the east or west side of Delaware that the parking spots, the 6 spots will be removed?
This will be on the east side.
The east side, right,
Yes.
so they could move into Fiesta Gardens. Have you heard anything from them? Anyone from Fiesta Gardens on this?
I personally have not, but I can reach out to our project manager who's a little bit more in tune with the day-to-day input, and I could follow up.
Sure. Okay, yeah. I would just keep that on the radar screen. Because I know the folks in Fiesta Gardens, and parking, on-street parking is exceedingly sensitive issue with them. My last questions have to do with, I'm going to go to a specific project. And one that I think is one of the more important projects, and Chair Narita referred to this last year, that is the 28th Avenue Gap closure. That to me is an important project because it's bringing, it is a transportation hub, it's transportation strategy, and I see that staff and the consulting team are going to amend the scope to include in-person community engagement to collect some feedback on the 30% design. So we've got a consulting team, and I'm assuming they're tasked with reaching out and identifying this. My question is, what are your plans for the disabled community in terms of reach out? And you may not have any at this point, and that's fine. But if you're, this is just not, in my mind, an everyday project. It's a big project, and it's a strategic one. And ensuring that this group of residents are included in what looks to be some upcoming engagement is important. So is there any discussion, thought? Maybe we have to think about this. Anyone?
Yeah, I have some thoughts, Commissioner. Yeah, so reaching out to a specific community, especially one with accessibility issues, is something that's not only fundamental in the design phase as we're designing a project, but we've really changed the way we've done outreach. Instead of, okay, 6 o'clock, let's meet at a town hall where, to be honest, some people with challenges might not be able to attend. We've taken a different approach to not only host virtual, in-person, and also post signage directly at the area that we're improving on. We're also now uploading recorded videos for people that cannot access or have mobility issues, where they can access the project and also send inquiries during the duration of the project, specifically reaching out to a group. That's something that we're working on, and depending on the geography of where the project is, we want to make sure that the community and the group we're reaching out to makes sense, but that 100% is something that we're constantly looking at. And Commissioner, if there are any recommendations, we could discuss that further on, and we'll be more than happy to reach out.
Sure. The reason I bring this up is the citywide complete streets, another very strategic project, had one person spoken to and no follow-up. And that's a citywide strategic project. North Central complete streets, no one from the disabled community. And North Central did one of the most innovative reach outs I can think of, I've ever seen. And that is going into the lives of people. And I can't think of going into the lives of people who have to spend their life in wheelchairs and other forms of, I'll call physical disability, be it vision, hearing, or mobility. So I'm just going to mention to you, when we come back here, I'm going to be asking, how many people did you reach out to and what was the outcome out of this community? Okay, so you're opening it up again, and this is an ideal time, I think, to start to reach out. I will share with everyone that Cassia Raby, did I pronounce? Yeah, Cassia Raby, who's overseeing the Smart Streets to Safe Streets to School program, another citywide program, did reach out to me and about disabled input, and we're putting together ultimately a roster of 6 to 12 individuals that the city can go to, as well as organizations. So we're going to start to formalize this. But Cassia, did I pronounce her name? Yeah, Cassia was the first to reach out, and I see the project is here on the write-up. So I'll save some comments for closing comments, but those are some of my questions. Thank you.
Just quickly through the chair, if I may.
Of course.
I think Commissioner Ruwinski, we've heard you loud and clear on this issue when you brought it up with the Complete Streets Plan and other plans, and so it's something that we are working. That's the reason I asked Casey to reach out to you directly on contacts, and so we are struggling with some staffing issues with Sue Ellen being gone and our other senior, Bethany, being out on a leave of absence right now. So we are having some staffing challenges in this group. So we're having to put some of those things like the Complete Streets Plan, figure out how we're going to move forward on those. So some of those things are a little bit on hold right now, but we've heard you loud and clear, and it's something that we're trying to incorporate as standard practice as we go forward on these projects to make sure that we're incorporating outreach to the disability community. So we appreciate your feedback on that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Matt. And like I said, they're an important group. I'll continue inquiring, and I'll continue to help how I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Commissioner Kranz, I see your hand is up. Would you like to provide your questions?
Sure. Thank you very much for taking my questions. So in light of the Safe Streets to School, have we considered alternate streets going one way to make one-way streets out of them so that you'd have a little bit more organized throughput, and you would be able to get your parking in addition to maybe having a bike lane? Has that been thought about?
Just a clarification question. If you're speaking about a specific project or specific
Well,
area?
I've walked through Shoreview with some people, and that's come up. And I think it would be a global potential solution to some of the other crowded neighborhoods where people are very sensitive about losing their parking. We get that. Would it make sense to make the street one way so that you could keep the parking, and yet where the two-way factor got lost, you could maybe make a bike lane out of it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could take that one, Commissioner.
Sure.
So in our traffic calming and our general inquiry in terms of fielding requests, we have received a couple of those requests to turn certain streets into one way. Quite frankly, it does require a lot of analysis because circulation is one that is pretty instrumental, and depending on the neighborhood, especially Shoreview, there are really two pinch points that go in and out, 3rd and Norfolk, as well as Fashion Island and Norfolk over there. So we do take those inquiries quite often. I can tell you a current project we're doing, which is the North Central Complete Streets Plan. That is one idea that the community has brought up in terms of limiting right-of-way as well as providing for more modes. So we are looking into it, but the message here is when we receive a request like that, it's quite an extensive effort that goes in. It's quite rare, but that's something that city is looking into in terms of staff.
Okay. It would be somewhat similar to Denver, Colorado, where every other street's a one-way. And for them, every city's different, but for them, it seems to work. Two more quick questions. The parking garage, the exit to the parking garage, so maybe Nicolette, does it already have a stop sign?
Yes, they should all have stop signs, but part of this project, we identified some stop signs that are maybe bent or a little worn. As part of this project, we'll be putting up nice new ones.
Does it make sense to incorporate, instead of a separate sign that says caution, there's a pedestrian out there, maybe incorporate that with the stop sign? I've seen that done in other locations where they have red lights around the periphery of the stop sign, and if there's a a person that breaks the beam in the crosswalk, it lights up the sign. It would also, instead of having to reinterpret what does this sign mean, the stop sign would reinforce it. I'm just wondering if that's something that would work for you.
That does sound like an interesting idea. We
Okay.
had not heard of that idea, unfortunately, as part of the design portion, so we're already at the part where we've picked our warning devices.
Got it.
But we will consider that for future projects.
Okay. The last question was slide 22, where you had the red stripes along the side. Is that part of the traffic slimming that the public commenter made?
I'm not sure. You're speaking about the curb extensions as part of the Safe Routes to
Right.
School quick build. Yeah, so with the red paint, it really just makes it more visible where pedestrians are standing when they come off the sidewalk, and really reinforces that cars shouldn't be parking in that area, even, reinforcing with the delineators there too.
Got it. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. So I have, Commissioner Robbins, did you have questions? Okay, so I have some questions. Thank you so much for the presentation, especially as you are staff constrained. Really appreciate the hustle. Clarification question, like what is a 35% project and a 65% project? I am ashamed to say I don't recall seeing that in prior documents, and I don't know the definitions.
Yeah, it's just a way to track our progress. If you gauge it from 0 to 100%, 100% being the plan is fully fleshed out, we're done with community engagement for the most part, and we're ready to bid out the actual plan set. It's just lingo for tracking the progress of where we're at. Typically for us, internally, depending on the complexity, we do 35, 65, 95, and then 100%. So those are the increments. And so you can gauge 35 just as we're getting the network sorted out, the operation sorted out. In terms of fine tuning the improvements, that will mostly be done at 65, and at 95%, generally you won't have a lot of comments coming back because the design is almost ready for construction.
Okay, great, thank you. And then I wanted to bring in the first general public commenter who talked about green paint, and I wanted to ask about the Complete Street design manual. Does the design manual go into that kind of detail, like when is green paint deployed and stuff like that?
It does. It does. The industry is shifting more towards highly visible pavement marking, and green marking or greenback markings, depending on the material, is one that will be in the design manual.
Okay, and so that will basically give the city staff as well as private sector developers who have to repair streets guidance on when to deploy green paint.
Yes, and
Okay.
yes, and the standard. And currently, our practice, we do that for every bike project, strategically in certain locations where we want more visibility on the bicyclists. I think the public comment was referring to retrofitting or coming back into existing networks that don't have that. I think that was it. But moving forward with any new project, we are incorporating the green backing.
Okay, because the transition on Delaware, when I saw you, Jay, when I stopped by Bethany's site, by 28th and Delaware, when we were doing the bike lane transitioning across the level lanes of traffic, I was like, green paint, and Bethany was like, it's really expensive, and so that one's all white. But like, I'm hopeful going forward there would be more opportunity for some eye-catchiness. Is that kind of the goal? Would be like more green paint on the ground?
That is it. And okay. I said strategically because Bethany is correct, wherever you are, Bethany. She is correct. It is very expensive for us to consider, as much as we want to make the whole entire network with green backing. It is very expensive, so we have to use it strategically to make the actual project be fully funded.
Okay. And going to the one more question on the Complete Streets plan. Does that come back to the commission, to this commission, before it goes to City Council for final approval? Because I don't believe we've seen a design manual draft yet. Is that accurate? And is that on the calendar? Because it wasn't in our crystal ball.
I want to say right now, our current schedule still shows that. But as Matt had mentioned, we lost a couple of staff members, and unfortunately, the Complete Streets Plan as well as other planning documents are grant funded. And we have a compacted schedule right now. So along with the city manager's office, community development, and public works, we're relooking at the whole entire schedule to make sure we don't jeopardize some of the grant funding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We
So
want to hit the target. It's more important to complete the work and hit the grants and use the money than,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. But I think maybe consider if we need special meetings or anything like that to accommodate, because I do think that some of these documents, given these constraints, should come back to the commission, and if we need to have different schedules, we should discuss that.
100%.
And then I had a question on the Class 4 bikeway, the 19th Avenue Fashion Island design. I read in the document there were 2 design options and then one was chosen. Process-wise, on these big projects, do those types of design things generally, should they be coming to the commission? Because we were asked about 28th, right, and the underpass piece. But we were not asked, right, about Fashion Island in terms of the option A, option B, and solicited our feedback there. So what is the process for commission feedback on these bigger projects like that? Is it opportunistic, or in your evaluation will you be maybe developing some standards of when that comes to the commission versus not?
Yeah, good question. We currently don't have a definitive black and white process of when we bring certain things to commission or certain things to council outside of things that are required. I can tell you at the department, at the staff level, we look at each project differently, depending on the impact, depending on the outreach needs, and depending if there are 2 alternatives that are just so different in concept that it's really difficult and we need the additional opinion of the commissioners. There's a lot of subjectivity as well as experience that goes into that, but right now we don't have a process to say this project will go and this wouldn't. It is done at the department level.
At the department level, but
Yes.
there's no kind of protocol within the department to determine this level of project, whether it's complexity, timing, whatever, number of jurisdictions involved or whatnot, whether or not it comes to the commission for feedback. There isn't a internal department protocol.
That is correct. Now,
Okay.
when we think about bringing things, we do go through a checklist of, okay, is this controversial? Is this something that we need additional guidance or even support on? Those are the things we think about, but it's not defined in a policy.
Okay, great. And so to the point of the 19th Avenue Fashion Island, between the 2 options, I have not looked at the project website, full disclosure. So between the 2 options that were presented, you all felt like it was pretty strongly unanimous-ish towards one of the designs of the 2?
Yeah, the 2 designs, the ultimate design that we chose really accommodates for both of the bicycle facilities, but also, commissioners, I think you're aware that we also have another priority on a corridor, which is for congestion management and congestion relief. So we found an alternative that ultimately allows for additional right turn lane at the intersection of Norfolk and Fashion Island, and that was really a clear win to go ahead and alleviate and reduce travel times on the corridor, because that is heavily congested corridors in terms of vehicle, but also providing for the highest level of protection, which is a Class 4 facility. We looked at it at the staff level. We reached out to the team of experts at the TA, and we looked at this and we had a couple of meetings, and the input was, yeah, we want the bike lanes, we want vehicle congestion relief. I think both options, for the most part, can accommodate that, but the option we went with can do it better. We decided that that was the one that we heard from the community. So we decided not to bring it to commission.
Okay, thank you for that further detail. On the Norfolk project, Nicolette, you mentioned that this was a special project because it was federally funded by the CDBG grants, the block grants. And I was curious, how does the city decide what to spend their CDBG money on? And for anyone who wants an explainer, the CDBG is a federal program it's a very unique program where essentially money comes straight from the federal government into city governments. It's one of the few programs that actually we bypass the state government from having to request money from there. So it's a very, very special and precious amount of money.
I do know it has to go towards our equity priority community, which is our North Central community, but I may have to pass it over to Jay or Matt to say how specific projects are chosen.
Yeah, so community development holds the key, specifically the housing division holds the key to these funds. Every single year when funds are appropriated to CDD, Public Works, as well as other departments are completely eligible to go ahead and propose a couple of projects, and then they go ahead and bring it to their board for review and approval, and ultimately that gets done. But a lot of this is, we know there's money annually that gets accumulated depending if you use it or not, or you want to bank it for the following year. We have projects that are lined up that are ready to go ahead and take advantage of that.
That's super helpful, thank you. I didn't realize it was like an internal application process essentially within the city government, so that's great to know. Okay, and then, sorry, I'm jumping back and forth, I'm so sorry. Going back to 19th Avenue Fashion Island, Nicolette, you mentioned that there are 2 pending grants essentially for $2 million apiece. I was curious, is the total cost of the project $2 million and we're hoping to get 1, or is the total cost of the project like $4 million or more and we're like cobbling it all together and hoping for both?
It's the latter. The total
should've
we're
known.
hoping to get both grant applications so we can get the amount for the construction.
So $4 million is like what we need for starting for construction?
The total construction cost right now is $10 to $12 million. And we have roughly about $4 to $5 million of that, and we're missing another $5 million of that. So we're on our way to be there. But
And so with these 2, if we were successful with these $2 million grants, it would close it to, $1 million to $3 million needed,
Exactly.
depending on, okay, gotcha. Thank you. And then I think the last question, it's kind of more meta. It's okay. I don't have to ask the last question. We're good. I'm going to save it for comments. Okay. Did anyone else have any follow-up questions for staff? Okay, go ahead.
I think this button's I can see it. It's worn out. So just going back to the 28th gap closure project, like I said, it's really important. By the way, when I take Caltrans up to San Francisco for work, that's where I park. So I know that station really well. And my question is, I see there's going to be bus islands. Great, and that they're going to go underneath the bridge. Got that. What that might do, or let me ask you, have you heard in your feedback any concerns or questions or comments relating pedestrians who cross 28th under the bridge? Because what happens is that's where we have 2 big stairwells, and so I see it. So if I see it, other people see it as well. But the pedestrians come down the stairwell and then they cross 28th. Some take the bridge over top, but some don't. And maybe that's on your radar screen, I don't know.
Yeah, I've definitely seen it personally too when we did outreach for the transit-oriented development pedestrian access plan. And so as part of that plan, we have a project to look into the feasibility of putting a crossing under the bridge. Unfortunately, that was not part of the 20th Avenue Gap Closure project though.
When I saw the bus islands, I said maybe that could at times be a buffer, because they do run down those 2 main corridors. Something simple, and you folks, the city's done this on the corner of Saratoga and Hillsdale. You put those bars, I don't know if it'll stop anyone. When we took the crosswalk out, this was the NTAP program. We moved the crosswalk from the east side to the west side of Saratoga and Hillsdale. And so what the city did, where the former east side crosswalk was, they put a gate, literally a gate, to dissuade people from crossing there. Whatever it's worth, it might be worth a drive-by.
Thanks. So at this point, we'll take comments. Commissioner Robbins, I'm looking to you since you've been so patient.
Sure. I want to thank staff. It's been a great report. The only comment I have is something I've mentioned, it seems every year. Just with all these different plans, I strongly recommend that the city continue to prioritize mostly bike and then to some extent pedestrian improvements that are focused on access and routes to schools, because that's really where the safety issues are, and it's also where the bulk of the bike riding is. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but for all the, quite frankly, wonderful bike advocates we have, the huge volume of bike riding is to and from the schools. And my kid's in college now and away from it, but I was always in horror at what I saw going on around the schools as she went through them. So I would strongly like to emphasize the need to prioritize those sort of projects when we can. That's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Michaels, any final comments?
I'll just comment. I sort of coupled my comments earlier, but just to also emphasize the class 4 bike lanes. That's what we're seeing in these projects, and just really supporting that, because that's going to be the most comfortable way to get people to get on their bikes and to continue riding. So I'm glad to see those and looking forward to seeing more.
Great. And did you have any further comments, Commissioner Nowinski? Or Rich first? Okay. Commissioner Kranz, would you like to provide any further comments?
Sure. Wanted to thank Director Fabry for the meetings he's been having about the Fashion Island 19th Avenue. I attended 2 of those. Really well run, very informative. I think the people in the community got a lot out of it. When I could ride, my wife and I would like to ride over Hillsdale. Not such a great idea. But even on 19th, heading from, we live over in Mariners Island, and trying to get to like Trader Joe's, with the cars getting onto 101 North, it's treacherous. So I applaud the efforts the city's making to make it safer. I think more people would ride if they didn't fear for their lives. And yeah, I think it's going to make this a more verdant and safe neighborhood to live in. Thank you for all your hard work.
Wonderful, thank you. And Commissioner Nowinski?
Yep, just a couple of comments here regarding CDBG funds. Nicolette, I heard you mention they go to North Central. Actually, I recall seeing, actually it's far more expansive than that. There are communities that have met the federal guidelines, and I remember seeing a map, probably Sue Ellen showed it, roughly a year or year and a half or so ago. So I would go back and look at that map, because there were maps, communities that would meet the federal criteria for receiving funds. There were communities down at the Belmont-San Mateo border. There were communities around the Hillsdale Garden Apartments and 37th Avenue. There was North Central. So I was surprised how expansive, but so it's just not North Central. There are other communities, particularly south, that met. And she showed a map, and she said these communities met, and talked to Sue Ellen where that map is. And I think there was also one in Fashion Island. So that's my first comment. And, my next comment is, just sit back. You've got a fabulous roster of projects here and plans. They're all really good. But I would sit back and look at those that where and I'm sorry, Matt, to do this, but where disabled input would be useful and relevant. It's not every project. For example, the 28th Gap I talked about, the Fashion Island. Fashion Island's got that multi-modality transit hub. Another very strategic project. That would be one for disabled input. The garage may be less so. Time is tight, resources are tight, so prioritize. Complete streets, North Central, citywide, those are 4 that kind of really stand out in my mind. Okay, thanks.
Great, thank you. So thanks again for the great presentation and the wonderful answers to our questions. So for me, I would recommend some kind of internal consistency and or communication about when design feedback is needed or requested or expected of commission. I genuinely was expecting to like give you my little spiel and thoughts and my charming assessment of that 19th Avenue Fashion Island. I respect that you didn't need it. But it would have been good to like know in terms of like just managing our expectations, because I really did want to see it. So so just managing commission expectations on that I think could be helpful. It can even be, Matt, you've even started to like forward us emails that have been sent to staff about different things, and I find that to be hugely informative, and so that could even just be sufficient. It's not meant to like, please compose me an essay. No. Like, but take advantage of whatever you have and like let us know a little bit more, because I just don't like proactively go to the website and track things in a proactive fashion, but I will read anything that's given to us on that front. And then, in talking about all the different policies that we have in development, the plans that we have in development, however Commission can help you provide feedback on that meta, like all that reevaluation across the plans. Complete Streets is and will continue to be a great opening to like kind of stack the different plans. But one of the things that was unearthed in one of the prior Complete Streets processes was that there isn't necessarily a reevaluation of some of the other more detailed plans. So for instance, I was struck that the Bike Master Plan, it's like the 2020 Bike Master Plan. Now that's 4 years. And I'm like, how are things changed? How are we doing? Are people using the bike lanes? I think they are. But, let's how do we continue to grow and evolve and also justify these things across the community as, to Commissioner Winsky's point, parking becomes more constrained, things might become more contentious. We need to start planning and laying the groundwork for evaluation of the success and potential challenges that prior build-outs have had, and how do we track, the amount of use, and how do we then integrate that into revisions of plans, et cetera, et cetera. I'm thinking like over the next 5 years. I'm not saying this for, this year, to be clear. But let's start to think about that now, because we are in year 4 of that Bike Master Plan, for instance. As needed, if we need to hustle to provide feedback on things, given grant cycles, it would be great to know if we need to have special meetings for that. And if not, that's also great, but just do let us know. I do think the draft design manual is one thing, for instance, that I could imagine Commission wanting to dig in on, since we also have done the design manual for the wireless stuff, so it does seem like up our alley to review a 100-page, very wonky technical design manual. That seems like something we do. So I just want to name that and not get into a situation where we might have needed to in hindsight. And then when it comes to the community engagement writ large, I just want to support and agree with Commissioner Winsky on the accessibility community, right? This is quintessential targeted universalism. If we are able to design for the most challenged, most disadvantaged parts of our community, everyone wins. That's where curb cutouts came from for the ADA. Everyone loves curb cutouts. Who doesn't love a curb cutouts? People with strollers love them. People with dogs love them. Everyone loves a curb cutout, and that is through the ADA and the concepts of targeted universalism. So as much as we can continue to bring that in to our designs, I think that will be great, and I will commit to continuing to think about that as well. I also just want to thank Sue Ellen, now at the county, for all her work, fabulous work over the years, and her support and presentations to this commission. Wish Bethany well on her leave, and thank you so much to Jay and Nicolette for a wonderful presentation today. Really, really appreciate it. Okay, with that, any final comments?
Through Chair, could I just make a couple comments? One is I wanted to just say thanks for the thoughtful feedback. We really appreciate it. It's helpful. I do also want to apologize that at the beginning of the presentation we didn't have the slides up on the Zoom. So just want to make sure that anyone, including Commissioner Kranz, anybody that's watching, that those slides will get posted online on the city's website for the portal that we have for all the public meetings, that you'll be able to go there in a couple days and the slides will be posted there. So anyone that wants to see any of the slides that we didn't have up at the very beginning of the presentation, those will be there. And then just in terms of bringing stuff to the commission, I appreciate those comments. That's one of the things I want to work on with staff, is having a more defined process of what goes to the commission and what doesn't. I think in my limited view of this, I feel like we've gone pretty heavy on transportation and climate with the commission, but I think in the past we used to bring other infrastructure-related things. I understand that at the beginning of the Clean Water Program, we brought a lot of Clean Water Program things here. So that's been some of my questioning to staff is why are we not bringing other infrastructure-related items? And so that's part of what I want to do is come up with a more defined plan of, all the different things that Public Works is doing and recognize that over time we may have sort of drifted in this only transportation, bike ped type stuff, as well as the climate stuff that comes from the city manager's office, that we may have lost some of that other stuff, because there's plenty of other infrastructure things that Public Works does that might make sense to bring to the commission. But I think we need to also be thinking about, what are the important things that we need commission feedback on. Often you guys are serving as an advisory body to the council, so often it's tied to when we're going to be bringing something to the city council, and so we just need to figure all that out and build it really into our, I've talked to staff about making sure that we're building this into when we're starting a new project of what are the key pieces of questions that we're going to need answers to, and let's plan in advance, like what are the times that we're going to need to go to the commission and go to the council and get feedback, so that we're really thinking about that, making sure that our consultants that we're bringing on board are planning for that and thinking about that and budgeting for that. So there's still some work to do. I appreciate the comments on that, and just want to let you know that that's something I'm thinking about as well, and hope that I can bring something back that would be more concrete to the commission in the future. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, any other comments on this item? All right, with that, I will close this item. Thank you so much again. And then the last thing on our agenda is reports and announcements. Are there any other reports and announcements to share? Staff? Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, through the chair, just looking at our crystal ball that we provided, I think, to the commissioner members, October 9th is potentially going to be a big meeting for the commission. That's when we're really targeting trying to bring back the small cell ordinance and design standards update. We're on a very tight timeline to try to do that. We had an internal meeting today committing to trying to get that on the October 9th agenda. I think part of our challenge with that is trying to get it out to the public in advance for a chance for the public to review. I think in order for us to keep it on this October 9th schedule, we may have to abbreviate a little bit the public comment period in advance of the commission meeting, but there will still be plenty of time for folks to review materials, talk to the commission, as well as talk to council when we'd go back to council. So that's our plan, is to bring that on October 9th. We also had on the crystal ball the Climate Action Plan Annual Progress Report. My concern with that, and I'm checking in with the city manager's office on the urgency of that item, is that I think that the small cell item might take a significant chunk of time on the 9th. So hopefully they will be amenable to potentially, assuming that we're able to keep the October 9th schedule, which is our intent right now, that we would potentially shift that Climate Action Plan Progress Report to the November meeting. And then we don't have necessarily anything else scheduled right now at this time, but that's one of the things that I'll be looking at, is making sure that we aren't missing particular items that should be coming. We do have a couple items that were listed as unscheduled and slash suggested items, which I know there's been talk about having an update from Cal Water, and so that may be something that we'll look into. If we don't have anything scheduled, can we get Cal Water to come and do a presentation, sustainable building strategy, prioritize decarbonization policies? I'm going to have to defer to the city manager's office on that one, because I don't even know what that means myself. And then Public Works Year in Review 2024 update. We usually do sort of a summary of all the things that we've been doing, so we'll be looking at that potentially for the December meeting. So I think that's all I had to provide as other announcements. Happy to take any questions on any of that.
Thanks, Matt. I think for what it's worth, the Public Works Year in Review, that was supposed to be sometime in January of 2024, and it's never happened. So maybe there would be a, over the last 2 years, two years in review opportunity in December, perhaps.
Yeah, we can do that.
Any other reports and announcements, commissioners? Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. And with that, I'll close the meeting.